Everyone thought I had a crush on Chris Clark. After he lost a round of Truth or Dare, the crowd egged me on to kiss the campus heartthrob from the neighboring school in his place. I was so nervous I could barely breathe. "Wendy, it's just a kiss, you're not going to die," someone said. "Relax. Brother Chris will totally understand," another chimed in. Chris Clark, always playful and careless, teased me with a grin. "Yeah, Wendy, do me a favor, will you?" He was certain I'd refuse. He knew I'd always been conservative and shy. But I softly said, "Okay." Chris's expression faltered for a second. He smirked. "All right. 3 seconds. Not a second less. Told you, she'll do anything for brother Chris." "Chris, how did you manage to tame Wendy?" Under their gleeful, mocking stares, I slowly walked toward Williams. I stood on tiptoe, and kissed him on the lips. Chris was used to wild behavior. He'd seen it all. Except tonight. He lost again during a party game in the private room and picked Truth. Someone asked him, "In the past 3 years, have you ever had feelings for Wendy?" Everyone leaned in, eager for drama. Chris was stunned for a beat, then arched a brow and laughed. "Who? Wendy? Feelings?" Laughter exploded around the table. Only 2 people remained silent, me, sitting at the farthest corner, and Williams, sitting right beside Chris. Williams was the captain of the basketball team at the neighboring school. Chris had organized this dinner after a match, and I'd begged him to let me tag along. Throughout the meal, I barely spoke, completely out of place among the crowd. It wasn't until someone realized this was a post-game gathering, not a regular party, that things settled down. But soon, they were back to eating, drinking, and playing games again. Chris slouched lazily in his chair, playing another round, and lost again. This time, he picked Dare. The dare was to kiss the person on his left for 3 seconds. That person was Williams. Everyone looked at Williams. He stayed calm, expressionless, quietly eating. Chris threw an arm around him. "Bro, you don't mind if I kiss you, right?" Williams, cool as always, set down his chopsticks and gave a half smile. "I do mind." The crowd jeered. "Chris, Williams doesn't swing that way. Just get a girl to do it instead." "How about Wendy? She'd do anything for you." I stayed silent. "Wendy, it's just a kiss, you're not going to die. Relax. Brother Chris will understand." Chris grinned lazily again. "Yeah, Wendy, do me a favor, will you?" He was sure I'd decline. But again, I softly said, "Okay." Chris's face darkened slightly. He smirked. "All right then. 3 seconds. Not a second less. See? I told you she'd do anything for brother Chris." "Chris, how did you get Wendy so obedient?" I stood up and slowly walked toward Williams. His face was too perfect, not a single flaw. I was afraid kissing anywhere might ruin the beauty. My eyes lingered on his sculpted profile, then shifted to his lips. Wait. Did Chris say where I should kiss? No? Then I suppose the cheek or the lips both count. Trying to act serious, I leaned in toward his face. Just before touching his cheek, I leaned a little further and kissed him on the lips. Williams's long lashes quivered. His throat bobbed ever so slightly. Gasps erupted around us. "Whoa. Wendy. 3 seconds. 2.3. 2.2. His lips were too soft. I was so nervous, my whole body trembled. 2.15. Chris couldn't take it anymore. Irritated, he cut off the countdown. 3 seconds. Done. He grabbed me by the arm and pulled me away, putting distance between me and Williams. Sensing that Chris wasn't in a good mood, everyone went silent. The rest of the dinner passed uneventfully. On the way back, Chris drove in silence for a long time before suddenly asking, "Wendy, you did that to get back at me, didn't you?" Snapped out of my thoughts, I asked, "What?" "That day, you saw me kissing someone else outside the dorm, right? So now you used Williams to get revenge? You're so petty. It was just a meaningless fling." "Kissing?" I thought back to a week ago, when I went to deliver something to Chris. I saw him, kissing some beautiful girl outside the dorm, wrapped around each other like they couldn't bear to part. Bold. Flashy. Exactly what you'd expect from someone like Chris, wild, arrogant, never turning down attention. But me? I didn't feel much at all. I'd already told Chris I didn't like him. But he never believed me. When I was 10, my family went bankrupt. My father fled under a mountain of debt, and I changed my last name to my mother's. Not long after, she went abroad with a friend, and my uncle took me in. At the time, my uncle had just remarried. His new wife was the heiress of the Clark family, which made her Chris's mother and my uncle Chris's stepfather. After getting permission from the Clarks, my uncle brought me to live with them. Chris and I were the same age. He was wild and mischievous, always teasing or picking on me. 6 months in, I had had enough. Sensing my resistance, he tossed me some money with a smug look. "Wendy, you need money, right? Be my sidekick. I'll pay you. He wasn't wrong. I had no one to rely on. I couldn't depend on my uncle forever, he was already in a low position within the Clark family. I needed money. With money, I could move out. I could start building something of my own. In the beginning, Chris knew I was only putting up with him for the money. Later on, though, he convinced himself I had actually fallen for him. It started during a basketball game in our first year of high school. Chris and Williams lived in the same upscale neighborhood and went to the same elite school. I went to a suburban public school and could only return to the Clark villa on weekends. When I heard Chris and Williams had a game, I asked if he could take me with him. Chris gave me a puzzled look. Didn't you say a few days ago you were swamped with studying and didn't want to go out? I mumbled, feeling a little guilty. It just so happens this week's not too busy. Chris leaned down, his breath brushing my face. Not busy? Uncle Chu said you've been staying up late every night to cram. I thought you weren't even coming back this weekend. He narrowed his eyes slightly, like he was on the verge of uncovering some secret. Wendy, you didn't come back just to see my game, did you? His tone turned teasing. Wait, are you seriously into me? No way. Wendy, are you out of your mind? He kept muttering to himself while I waved my hands frantically. No. You've got it all wrong. I don't like you. Chris looked stunned, but he didn't listen. Instead, he whipped out his phone and called one of his buddies. Hey, guess what? You were right, Wendy really does like me. What? I blurted. She dropped 3 spots in her rankings this week, stayed up late studying for days, and still made time to come back, just to see my basketball game. I lost our bet. You get to choose where we eat. That's when I found out it had been Chris's friends who insisted there was no way I'd listen to Chris so obediently unless I was secretly in love with him. To them, it couldn't just be about the money. When we arrived at the game, I didn't look at Chris even once. The whole time, my eyes stayed glued to Williams. He wore a light-colored jersey, his fingers long and strong as he gripped the ball. When he jumped, the hem of his shirt lifted slightly, revealing a lean, powerful waistline. I lowered my head, afraid someone would notice. The truth was, no one would ever associate me with Williams. No one knew that, at 15, I used to sneak out after dark during summer break to scavenge the trash bins in that same upscale neighborhood. The trash there wasn't particularly dirty. I often found discarded fresh flowers, used handbags, clothes, jewelry, sometimes even items that looked almost brand new. I could sell them for good money. One evening, while rummaging through the last bin, I spotted a ring in the storm drain just outside a villa. It took a lot of effort, but I finally fished it out, only to look up and see Williams running out in his pajamas. He was tall and slender, with a faint, clean scent that stood in stark contrast to me, standing there clutching a garbage bag. His face turned red the moment our eyes met. When he saw the ring in my hand, he let out a breath of relief. Then he turned to me, no judgment in his gaze, and asked, slightly out of breath, but sincerely. Excuse me, could I buy that ring from you? My parents were fighting and threw it away. I was afraid I'd lost it. I'll pay you for it, if not for you, it might have been washed away already. That was probably the first time Williams ever noticed me. But I had known about him ever since I came to this neighborhood. He was exceptional. So exceptional that even my aunt couldn't stop praising him. Unlike most kids our age, he was thoughtful, well-mannered, and consistently at the top of his class. Disciplined. Focused. Mature. He had none of Chris's arrogance or his friend's unruly ways. I handed him the ring, realized it was filthy, and quickly wrapped it in a tissue before giving it to him. Here you go. Thank you. Mind if I run back to grab my phone? I'll transfer you the... No need. I quickly gathered the things I'd picked up and rushed away like I was escaping. Sometimes, I felt ashamed. Like I could never truly fit into Williams's world. But that night, I told myself, it's okay to not fit in now. One day, I'll stand before him as someone entirely new. From that moment on, I began watching him silently. I never missed a single game he played with Chris. I found out which city he wanted to go to for college. Which university he had his sights on. He became my goal. And in chasing that goal, I gradually patched up the broken pieces of my insecure, inferior self. That year, I ranked 3rd in my entire grade. For the first time, I earned the admiration of teachers and classmates. Only Chris misunderstood. When I reminded him to study, per my uncle's request, he thought it was because I liked him. When I watched his games, he thought it was because I liked him. When I tolerated his excessive demands, just to earn money, he still thought it was because I liked him. Eventually, I stopped trying to explain. Instead, I focused all my energy on exams. After the college entrance exams, I got accepted into a university in Hangcheng, right next to the one Williams would be attending. What I didn't expect was that Chris also ended up in Hangcheng. The 3 of us were in different schools, but they were all in the same university district, close enough to run into each other often. During my entire freshman year, I barely saw Chris. Only when my uncle couldn't reach him would I pass along a message, or when there was a basketball game at Williams's school, I'd stop by. In our sophomore year, the two schools started organizing more and more matches. And I went to every single one of them. Chris joked with his friends, saying he'd never seen anyone cling to him the way I did. Chris slammed on the brakes when I didn't respond. Wendy, do you really think pulling something like this would get my attention? You think I actually care? I'm only mad because of Williams. Do you even know what kind of person he is? If you wanted to piss me off, at least pick someone else. You're not even my type, what makes you think someone like Williams would be? I said nothing. From the beginning, I never expected Williams to like me. That kind of youthful affection was mine alone. Back then, I only wished I could become better, worthy of the person I admired. I never intended to keep him for myself. Besides, Chris had said worse things before. I didn't feel much anymore. I wasn't thinking that much at the time, I murmured. Not thinking? They were just teasing you, and you really kissed him. Chris scoffed, pulling out his phone. The whole group chat is laughing their heads off. Someone even posted pictures of you and Williams on their moments to make fun of you. He shoved his phone in front of me, mocking. Now Williams is looking for that guy, right now. Guess why? Must be embarrassed that you kissed him and wants that post deleted. I looked at the screen. In the group chat, the person who posted the photo had a dog head avatar. He replied with a trembling emoji. No way. It was just a joke. Williams wouldn't really come after me, would he? Looks like he would. You're screwed. Forget the sneak shot, why is it so high def? Our whole class knows. It's gone viral. They say it was his first kiss. Not only did Wendy take it, you made it public. You're done for. Doghead, alright, I deleted it. Doghead, wait a sec, what's up with Williams? Chris let out a dry laugh and casually sent a question mark. Doghead replied with a series of shocked emojis. Dude, no way. Williams asked if I have the original copy of the photo. My breath caught in my throat. The message was quickly deleted. Chris saw it too. His expression stiffened, and he sent a voice message. He typed wrong. Obviously, he meant to ask whether the photo had been deleted. He then turned off his phone and looked visibly unsettled. Oh, come on. You didn't like me, and I broke up with that girl anyway. Probably just jealous some pretty girl really likes me. He gave me a sideways glance. Besides, Wendy, who would like someone as dull as you? Especially with the way things are between us. Dull was something Chris often teased me with. He dropped me off at the campus gate, expression cold as he spoke. Don't come to next week's basketball game. I nodded lightly. A week later, my uncle called. He couldn't reach Chris and asked me to check in on him. It was the first time I ever refused his request. I told him I wasn't feeling well and gave him Chris's roommate's contact instead. He didn't press further and just told me to rest. That evening, just as I was about to sleep, I got a message from Chris. Wendy, you're doing this on purpose, aren't you? I saw you at the snack street earlier, alive and well. But then you go crying to Uncle, saying you're sick. If you wanted to see me, you didn't have to fake an illness. Get downstairs. I sighed and stared at the ceiling. I figured my uncle must have asked Chris to check on me. I'd always downplayed any bad news. Maybe saying I was sick made him think it was serious. I grabbed a jacket and went downstairs. Chris was leaning lazily against a tree, arms crossed. When he saw me, he suddenly held out a bag of medicine with a smug grin. Wendy, you knew I had a mixer tonight, right? Faked being sick just to stop me from going? Well, congrats. You win. When I didn't respond, he grabbed my wrist and forced the medicine into my hand. I made up my mind to clear the air. Sorry, I didn't think Uncle would send you. I said I wasn't feeling well because I didn't want to be the one chasing you around for him anymore. Chris's smile froze. He frowned. What do you mean? I mean we're adults now. Let's mind our own business. From now on, I won't be passing on messages for Uncle. And you don't have to check on me anymore. His expression darkened. He gripped my wrist tighter, his voice cold. Seriously, Wendy? If you hadn't begged me all those years ago, I wouldn't have let you tag along. If this is some kind of push-pull game you're playing, don't overdo it. I yanked my wrist free. I'm not playing anything. Chris stared at me for a second, then let out a mocking laugh, slipping back into his usual careless tone. Fine. Then there's no need for us to see each other again. He turned to leave, but after 2 steps, he looked back. Wendy, don't come crying when you regret this. I thought Chris would block me or delete me after that. But just a few days later, I saw him post something on his moments, publicly announcing a new relationship with a freshman. They were sitting in a restaurant. The girl leaned close, arms around his neck, a massive bouquet of roses beside them. The cake said, "Happy birthday, baby." Chris had dated plenty of girls over the years, but this was the first one he'd ever posted about. People we both knew were quick to like and comment. Some even joked about me, "Looks like brother Chris is serious this time. Poor Wendy must be crying in the bathroom. It's a celebration, why bring her up? Wait, isn't today Wendy's birthday? Stop it. Mention her again and brother Chris might flip." That's when I realized, it really was my birthday. In the past, my uncle sometimes remembered. But he was always busy, balancing the politics within the Clark family. I never minded. Birthdays were just another year older, nothing special. Just as I was zoning out, my roommate Amy called from behind me. "Wendy, isn't today your birthday?" Amy was a local girl with a baby face and a bright, cheerful personality, a total contrast to me. I turned off my Moments feed and looked back. Yeah, I just remembered. She jumped out of bed and started changing. "You can't just sit around in the dorm on your birthday. Come on, let's go eat." All the way there, Amy was on the phone with her boyfriend, planning where to go for dinner and discussing what gift to get me. She gave me no chance to say no. She dragged me to a Chinese restaurant tucked behind the university town. "Wendy, I invited my boyfriend too." He felt awkward coming alone, so he brought a roommate. "You don't mind, right?" I looked up at the restaurant sign and nodded. "No worries. You two pick what you like, I'll go order." "No need. They've already arrived and sorted everything. Tonight, you just enjoy yourself." Amy looped her arm through mine and pulled me into the private dining room. Sitting across from us was her boyfriend, and next to him was Williams. The moment I saw him, my heart skipped a beat. Amy pulled me over to sit down and excitedly introduced them. "This is my boyfriend, Mark. And that's his roommate, Williams." I had always known Amy's boyfriend went to the same university as Williams. But I didn't know they were roommates. I greeted them politely, and Mark pushed the menu toward me. "Wendy, see if there's anything else you want to eat. Williams loves spicy food, so we already ordered a few spicy dishes. But if you're not into that, we can get something else." I glanced at the menu, everything listed was stuff I liked. I smiled and replied softly, "I can handle spicy. Let Amy choose a few more dishes." Mark grinned. "Then you and Williams must be destined. Amy and I can't take spicy food at all." Once the food was ordered, Amy pulled Mark away to get the birthday cake. Before leaving, she shot me a meaningful look, signaling me to help keep Williams company. Soon, the room quieted until it was just the two of us. The silence made my own breathing sound loud. I slowly lifted my gaze. Williams was wearing a simple black t-shirt today. He sat there, casually scrolling through his phone, his features clean and composed, gentle and aloof. Whatever he saw must have amused him. He leaned back lazily, a faint smile tugging at his lips. The motion drew his shirt taut across his defined abs. I quickly averted my eyes. I had watched Williams grow up from a boy into a man. But somewhere along the way, the boy I once admired had become someone I could no longer look at calmly. Then I heard the soft click of him putting his phone down. "Wendy." "Huh?" I quickly looked up, trying to mask my flustered nerves. His eyes narrowed slightly, voice dipping low. "About the other night, don't you think I deserve an explanation?" "An explanation?" "Oh, the night I kissed him?" "Right." The dare hadn't specified where the kiss should land. A kiss on the cheek would have worked. A kiss on the hand, too. So, kissing his lips counted as valid, didn't it? I gave an awkward laugh. That night, I thought the dare meant, well, a kiss on the mouth. That's what they always do in the novels. My voice trailed off. Williams gave a quiet hum of acknowledgement, then said, "That night, I was going to take you home. But they said Chris had already left with you. They also said you did it to make Chris jealous." "No," I blurted. "It wasn't about Chris. Our relationship isn't what people think." His voice dropped just slightly. "What do I think?" "I mean, everyone misunderstood. I don't like Chris." "Then who do you like?" Williams cut me off, his voice low and direct. I stared at his unfairly handsome face, the truth bubbling up to my lips. I almost said it, "I like you." But instead, I whispered, "No one." Williams let out a quiet, thoughtful "oh." "Do you remember, if we've met before?" He said he'd seen me many times back in high school. But I was always with Chris. Really? So he had noticed me too? Because of Chris? When Amy returned, she brought a birthday cake and 2 gifts. One was from her and Mark. The other, from Williams. Apparently, Williams had sent Mark to pick it up earlier. Amy gave me a scarf. Williams gave me a necklace, with the letters "and" engraved on it. I didn't quite understand. Maybe it was just part of the design? As we ate, Mark started chatting more about Williams. He even brought up the incident where a girl kissed him during a meal and a party game. I immediately choked on my food and started coughing, my face burning red. Amy lit up with curiosity. Are you serious? Was she secretly into you or something? Williams got up and poured me a glass of water, placing it gently in front of me, a faint smile on his lips. Wendy was there too. It must have been a misunderstanding. Amy gasped, scandalized. Wendy, you never told me something this juicy. Mark added, by the time I found out, the photo had already been deleted. I still can't believe someone got a clear shot. This was Williams's first kiss, after all. My whole face felt like it was on fire. Williams, ever composed, smoothly changed the subject, saving me from further embarrassment. The rest of the meal, I barely dared look at him, terrified my little secret might show on my face. After dinner, it started to rain. Amy and Mark had plans, so they asked Williams to walk me home. No, it's okay, I said quickly. I can get back on my own. But Williams had already held the umbrella over me. I'll walk you. It's on my way. We walked through the quiet streets, one after the other. To save time, I took him through a small path rarely used by others. Will you make it back in time after dropping me off? I asked. Williams nodded. I'm renting a place off campus. As soon as he said that, the rain picked up. He stepped a little closer, and a fresh, cool scent lingered in the air between us. My body stiffened instinctively, afraid I might accidentally brush against him. Suddenly, Williams stopped. One hand in his pocket, the other tilted the umbrella toward me. He lowered his gaze. Wendy, do you really like watching basketball games? Huh? Yeah, I replied. I've always liked competitions since I was little. After attending so many of Chris's games, if I said no, Williams probably wouldn't believe me, and worse, he might think I had feelings for Chris. He chuckled softly. I've got a game next week. Want to come? My heart skipped. I heard myself say, sure. He took out his phone and showed me a QR code. I'll send you the time and location later. Back at the dorm, I stared blankly at Williams's WeChat profile. His avatar was a plain black square. His moments were set to display only the past 3 days. Just minutes ago, he had posted something new. It was a photo of my birthday cake. Nothing seemed off about it. I did treat everyone to dinner, and the people there had given their blessings. But somehow, my heart still felt strangely out of sync. The next day, when Amy came back, I casually asked, why did Williams show up at my birthday dinner? She said Mark had mentioned it in their dorm chat. He was going to his girlfriend's roommate's birthday dinner. Williams was the first to reply with a one. She was surprised too. It was rare to see Williams join social gatherings. But those past few days, he seemed kind of down, she added. Maybe he just needed to clear his head. Was Williams really feeling low that week? I told Amy about the upcoming basketball game. She said she'd go with me. Mark doesn't play, but we can both cheer Williams on. The following days went on as usual. Except for Chris. He flooded his moments with over-the-top couple photos, showing off his new girlfriend. To give myself some peace, I muted his feed. I didn't delete him, mostly out of respect for my uncle. Through one of Chris's posts, I also learned that Williams had injured his hand while cutting vegetables the day before the game. He wouldn't be able to play. So that day, the 4 of us, Williams, Amy, Mark, and I sat in the stands as spectators. Even in the crowd, Chris stood out instantly. When he saw me, he paused briefly, then looked away and threw himself back into the game. Amy and Mark were being all lovey-dovey beside me, so I quietly moved a few seats away, smiling to myself. Just then, a basketball flew straight toward me. I instinctively leaned back. At the very last second, Williams reached out and caught the ball with one swift motion, then stood up and tossed it back to the court. The crowd gasped and applauded. Chris's expression on the court turned darker, and he played even more aggressively. I looked down and saw blood seeping through the bandage on Williams's hand from where he had caught the ball. It's fine, he said softly. I'll just rewrap it later. That's a lot of blood, though. Williams, let me take you to the hospital. He glanced at his hand, then nodded without arguing. Okay. We took a cab to the hospital. While changing the dressing, we finally saw how deep the cut really was. The doctor gave instructions, then looked at me. Young lady, remember, your boyfriend's hand can't get wet. Change the bandages regularly. I froze. William smiled calmly and answered for me, got it. Thank you, doctor. On the way back, he told me he was afraid of blood. I thought I'd misheard. Really? Yeah, he nodded, voice casual. Some bad stuff happened when I was little. I get a bit woozy around blood. So, Wendy, would you mind helping me with the dressings for the next few days? How could I possibly say no? Of course. Don't worry, I'll come by every day after class and change it for you. I followed Williams home and got familiar with the place. To my surprise, it wasn't far from my dorm. He lived in a well-known apartment complex nearby. Great environment, convenient location. His unit was a spacious flat, converted into a two-bedroom with a shared living room. The interior was simple and tidy, just like him. For the next 3 days, I went to his place after class. Amy noticed and immediately sensed something was up. "You're definitely hiding something," she said, then made Mark help her gather intel. I felt a little guilty. "It's not what you think. He only reopened the wound because he blocked the ball for me." "Seriously? Just that?" Amy raised a brow. She burst out laughing. "Wendy, listen to me. Williams has a lot of admirers. You're in the best position right now, healing his hand, visiting his home. Don't waste this golden opportunity." I blinked. "What do you mean by opportunity?" "I mean you need to make your move. But don't confess, okay? Guys like Williams have probably heard 100 confessions. You need to slowly tug at his heart." "Like how?" Amy smirked. "For example, when you're changing his bandage, look at him with eyes full of emotion." I froze. "Eyes, full of emotion?" "Yeah. The kind that's a little teary, innocent, soft." When Amy left, I stood in front of the mirror, trying to practice that emotional, teary-eyed look she described. After 30 minutes of effort, the reflection staring back at me was awkward beyond words. I gave up instantly. I had bought some fruit, and just as I reached the bottom of Williams's building, I ran into Chris. He and a couple of friends were standing downstairs, smoking while waiting for someone. When they saw me, one of them joked, "No way, brother Chris, you just moved in, and Wendy's already coming to see you." "Wendy," the guy added with a sly grin, "if you don't mind, brother Chris and his girl are throwing a little dinner at the new place. Wanna come?" Chris's tone was ice cold. "Forget it. No point inviting random people, it wouldn't be appropriate." I rubbed my temples. "Chris, I've told you, I don't like you. Can you please keep your friends in check?" His friend scoffed sarcastically. "Oh, come on. Who doesn't know how you used to cling to brother Chris all these years?" Just then, Williams walked straight through the group, a bag of trash in one hand. As he passed, he knocked the cigarette right out of Chris's fingers. Chris frowned. His friend looked about ready to curse him out, but then noticed who it was and let out a cold laugh. Well, Captain Williams. You live here too?" Williams didn't bother responding. He simply took the fruit from my hands. Chris's smile froze instantly. His friend looked utterly stunned. Williams turned to me. "Feel like eating out tonight?" We'd been making simple meals at home lately. He would help out in the kitchen. I snapped out of my daze. "Sure. Anything's fine." As we were heading upstairs, just as we passed Chris, he suddenly grabbed my wrist. His eyes were sharp and accusing. "Wendy, don't take this too far. If you're upset about me dating someone, say it directly. Do you really need to use another guy to provoke me?" Williams stepped behind me and gently wrapped an arm around my shoulders, casually tugging my wrist free from Chris's grip. He raised an eyebrow and smiled faintly. "Chris, your girlfriend's just behind you. Don't drag Wendy into this, it'll give people the wrong idea." Williams and I went upstairs. Chris's buddy muttered behind us, "What the hell is going on? Is Wendy using Williams just to make you jealous?" Then we heard Chris's girlfriend start questioning him, and a loud slap. Upstairs, I put the fruit away in the fridge and saw several missed calls from my uncle. I called him back. He said Chris had called him, claiming to feel unwell and asking me to accompany him to the hospital. While we spoke, Williams was on the couch, unwrapping the bandage from his hand. I hurried over to help. I covered his eyes with one hand and gently pushed him back. He sank into the couch, and I stood between his legs, so close I could feel the warmth from his thighs. "Don't look," I said, flustered. "I'll change it quickly." Williams didn't reply immediately. Instead, he asked quietly, "Are you going to go?" I used my hand to guide his eyes shut and knelt down to treat his wound. "No," I said firmly. "Chris is a grown man. He's got a girlfriend and friends. Why does it have to be me?" Williams's voice was soft but insistent. "But if he didn't have a girlfriend or friends, would you go then?" "No," I replied just as firmly. As I bandaged his hand, I added, "You need me right now. I can't go." I didn't want to miss this time with Williams. His wound would eventually heal. I wouldn't always have the excuse to stay close. Williams smiled faintly. "Wendy, did I ever tell you I'm afraid of the dark?" "What?" He opened his eyes slowly. "When I was a kid, my parents used to fight late at night, blaming each other, arguing. They were bound by a marriage of convenience, tangled in mutual interests, and couldn't break free. I don't like the night." His tone was light, his lowered lashes hiding his expression. It almost sounded like he was telling someone else's story. I froze mid-bandage, my breath catching slightly. "Williams," I said quietly, "everyone has their own lessons to face. The issues between your parents, they're their own lessons. We can't solve them for them, and we shouldn't suffer for their unresolved problems either." "Unresolved problems?" Williams repeated softly, his gaze distant, fixed on the couch. Wendy, has anyone ever told you, you're good at comforting people? I let out a breath and smiled. No. I don't really have many friends. I only met Amy after I got to college. I finished bandaging him carefully. Then my phone rang again, it was my uncle. Wendy, he said, I don't know what's going on with Chris. He keeps saying no one else is available. Your aunt's so worried she almost flew over there, but Chris stopped her. Please, can you just go see him for a bit? I looked at Williams. Meeting his eyes, I took a deep breath and said, Uncle, I just saw Chris. He's fine. Williams leaned in close to my ear, his voice gentle and polite. Hello, sir. I'm Williams, a friend of Wendy's. If it puts your mind at ease, I'll go with her. There was a pause. Williams? Oh. Good, good. I'll send the address to Wendy. The address was just outside Gate C of the same apartment complex. Chris hadn't left. When Williams and I arrived, Chris was sitting under a tree, gloomy, a slap mark still visible on his face. His girlfriend and friends were nowhere in sight. When he saw us, he ignored Williams completely and walked toward me. His expression was heavy, his voice low and steady. Wendy. I broke up with her. Yes, I admit, I posted those things on my moments just to get under your skin. And yes, seeing you and Williams together really got to me. You've made your point. You win. Let's forget everything in the past and start over. Gone was the carefree Chris I knew. His narrow eyes were now intense, serious. When I didn't respond, he exhaled softly, gave a small tug at the corners of his lips, and reached out as if to hug me. I took a step back, avoiding his touch. His hand froze midair. Quietly, I turned to Williams. Can you wait for me over there for a minute? He didn't hesitate, just nodded and walked a short distance away. I turned back to Chris. He stepped closer again, but I raised a hand to stop him, my expression calm but resolute. Chris, I'll say this one last time, I've never liked you. Not in high school. Not now. Not ever. Chris suddenly laughed. That's impossible. Words can lie, but actions don't. Wendy, stop lying to yourself. I raised my voice slightly. Chris, are you the one lying to yourself, or is it me? Chris was stunned, his tone hurried. I'm lying to myself? If you didn't like me, why did you come back every weekend just to watch my basketball games? If you didn't like me, why would you push me to study over and over again? If you didn't like me, how come when I changed my application to Hangzhou, you ended up there too? Wendy, I can apologize for everything that happened before. Chris. I cut him off, my patience wearing thin. You don't need to apologize to me. I only listened to you back then because I needed to earn money for living expenses. Helping you study? That was because Uncle asked me to. As for the basketball games, I never watched them because of you. Chris's eyes dimmed completely. His fists clenched tightly. Then who was it for? Williams. Chris's voice turned sharp with anger, his eyes red as he interrupted me. I don't believe it. Not a word of it. Don't say another word. I ignored him and continued, calmly and clearly, it was always because of Williams. He was the reason I begged you to bring me to those games. If you all hadn't teased me that day, maybe he and I would have never even crossed paths. Chris's expression instantly darkened. His brows twisted as he snapped, Williams? You know his family arranged a political engagement for him a long time ago. You think he'd ever really like you? He's only pretending to care because he wants to sleep with you. Smack. I slapped him across the face, hard. My voice was cold. Just because you're filthy doesn't mean everyone else is. Liking Williams was always my choice. I never said I had to be with him. After leaving, Williams and I grabbed something to eat. He drove me back in silence, not asking what I had said to Chris. When we arrived at the dorm building, he politely said goodbye. He hesitated, then smiled softly and whispered, Good night, Wendy. Good night. Back in my dorm, I called Uncle and told him Chris was fine. At the end of the call, I told him I'd decided to move out of the Clark family home. He seemed to sense something but didn't pry. He didn't even mention Williams. Wendy, you've always had your own mind. I trust you. Please take care of yourself. If anything comes up, call me anytime. I will. Thank you, Uncle. I'll help you bring your things over during summer break. Okay. There were still 2 months until summer break. Until then, I needed to pick up more part-time work and save money. I had a bit of savings, but sitting around waiting to spend it made me anxious. Once I moved everything from the Clark home, I'd need a small place to store it all. After Amy heard I was looking for a place, she got Mark to help. Soon, we found a first-floor apartment with a little yard in an old residential building nearby. The place was a bit old, but the girl who rented it before had decorated it warmly. It was within my budget too. To celebrate, I cooked a meal for Amy and Mark. During dinner, Amy hesitated for a moment before asking, "Wendy, why didn't you invite Williams? He seems a bit busy lately." "He is busy," she said, "but I feel like if you'd invited him, he would have come." Mark chimed in, "Yeah, after class, he even asked where I was going. I said to your place for dinner, and that's when he realized you hadn't invited him." "You too?" I smiled, "It's nothing. I just didn't want to bother him." Just then, there was a knock on the door. I thought it was the landlord bringing something, but when I opened it, I saw Williams. He looked like he had just taken a shower, wearing a black pullover shirt. Water dripped from his damp hair, tracing down his sharp features. His eyes were deep and dark, lips tightly pressed together. Everyone inside went silent. Williams smiled casually, as always. "I just happened to be walking by tonight. Mark mentioned you were moving, so I thought I'd drop by and say congrats." Only then did I notice the pile of things by his feet. Everything from household supplies to fresh meat and vegetables. "Thank you. Have you eaten yet?" He stared at me seriously. "No. I'm starving." Mark joked, "Perfect timing. We just started." Amy and Mark didn't eat much before making excuses to leave early. Williams helped organize everything he'd brought and insisted on washing the dishes. He was so tall, completely out of place in my tiny one-bedroom kitchen. And yet, my heart kept pounding uncontrollably. I stood by the doorway, waiting for him to finish so I could walk him out. But when he finished drying his hands, he suddenly walked over, leaned down, and wrapped his arms tightly around me. His breath was hot against my neck. I froze completely, too stunned to move. Williams took a long breath and whispered, "Wendy, I've had insomnia for a long time. I haven't slept well in ages. I heard everything you said to Chris that day. I figured. You were probably just using me to lie to him. So after that, you started ignoring me." I panicked. "I like you." Williams pulled me even closer, his voice low and rough. "Is that real, or just something you're saying to comfort me? Wendy, even if it's a lie, just let me believe it for this moment." "It's real. Williams, I've liked you from the very beginning. Every basketball game I watched, every meal I asked Chris to invite me to, they were all just excuses to see you." I threw caution to the wind and confessed everything in one breath. Williams went silent. His breathing grew heavy. I called his name softly a few times. Finally, his hoarse voice came, "Wendy, was that your honest answer?" "Yes." His arms slowly loosened as he looked down at me. His beautiful eyes shimmered, his long lashes beginning to dampen with emotion. Then he said, word by word, "Funny thing, Wendy. I like you too. So much. So much." The moment I heard his voice, my mind went completely blank. Half a month after we confessed our feelings, Williams finally told me why he had always thought I liked Chris. Back in high school, he didn't know I was only tagging along with Chris to earn money. Instead, he overheard Chris's friends at the basketball court several times saying that I had a crush on Chris. As more and more people started talking, they claimed I never missed a single one of Chris's games. Williams had watched me many times, without exception, I was always there. Then, when Chris suddenly changed his college preference and I also ended up in Hangzhou, everyone took it as confirmation. Even Chris's university classmates knew about it. Williams said during that time, his emotions were constantly in turmoil. I asked if he had ever thought that maybe I liked him. He shook his head. He said he didn't dare. He couldn't let himself hope. Back in high school, when I bent down to pick up his ring, he had wanted to add me on WeChat, but I'd rushed away. It seemed like I had no interest in talking to him. I asked him, "When did you start noticing me?" He thought for a moment, then said, "A long time ago." One night, when he couldn't sleep again, he was staring out the window in a daze, and saw me wandering around the neighborhood. I looked like I had endless energy. Every weekend, I was doing something. Helping others look for lost dogs. Taking care of kids with absent parents. Even sorting through garbage bins late at night. Back then, I was skinny and small, but my face looked stubborn and unyielding. Not afraid of hardship, unwilling to give up. It made me unforgettable. After asking around, he learned about my family situation. He knew I needed to study hard, and that I needed money. So he began leaving good things in the trash cans I passed every day. Sometimes he'd even wrap them in bags. My mind buzzed. All this time, I'd assumed it was some kind-hearted girl throwing those things out. I never imagined it was Williams. After the college entrance exams, Williams had wanted to find me, but Chris had told everyone on the court that I was planning to follow him to Hangzhou. So Williams held back. He kept asking Chris to play ball together, just so he could see me. That dinner? He went just to see how far I would go for Chris. But the moment my heart shattered, I leaned in and kissed him. Later, he found out someone had taken a picture and posted it to their moments. Once the screenshot was shared in their group chat, he immediately went around asking people to delete it, begging for the original image, pleading for them to keep it a secret. That night, Williams told himself, after all these years, his first kiss had gone to the person he'd silently loved. He spent the whole night convincing himself. Wasn't this destiny? Besides, he realized, Chris wasn't worthy of how much Wendy had once done for him. A month after we got together, Williams went with me to see a horror movie. I didn't blink once the entire time. When the movie ended, Williams leaned closer and asked, "Weren't you scared, Wendy?" I shook my head. Not at all. That's a problem. I was scared. Now I don't think I can sleep alone tonight. I looked at my one-bedroom apartment. Then, you sleep in my bed tonight. I'll take the couch. Mainly because the couch only fit someone my height. Williams was too tall. Oh, he murmured. Then, he turned to me, eyes deepening, and whispered, "Wendy, I'm still scared. Can you, maybe kiss me again?" I could smell his fresh, warm scent and nervously swallowed. For how long? 3 seconds? His voice was husky. 0.3 seconds works. I leaned in toward his lips. Just like last time, they were soft, but the longer I kissed him, the hotter it got. By the time my neck went stiff, he finally let me go, his lips flushed a deep red. After a long pause, he looked at me seriously. "Wendy, I'll prove it to you. The most important step will come after we're married." Only then did I realize, he was responding to the humiliating words Chris had said to me that night. He was offering me something I never had, a sense of safety. I never told Williams that I didn't believe in marriage or promises. People love making declarations in the heat of emotion. They may be sincere, but sincerity doesn't always last. But what I didn't expect was that, every time after that, it was Williams who pulled back just in time. It was always him who held back, who showed restraint, who cooled off in cold showers. After Williams and I officially got together, Chris spiraled for months. He came looking for me a few times. After being rejected, he chose to go abroad. That same year, our senior year, Williams's parents got divorced. In our 4th year together, Williams proposed. There were no dramatic obstacles like I'd imagined. Meeting the parents went smoothly. Getting the marriage certificate went smoothly. On the day of the wedding, Amy whispered to me, "It's not that there weren't any obstacles. It's just that Williams spent the past few years quietly removing every one of them." He told Mark, "Those obstacles were never yours, they were his." My eyes welled with tears. After the wedding, when we returned to our new home, Williams's first move was to turn off both of our phones. Under the soft, dim lights, he took off the tie around his neck, placed it gently in my hand, and whispered, "Wendy, tonight is for making up for all the time we lost."